Hello Nigerians, it's another Thursday on OGTV 25 UHF. We thank you for joining us on this week's edition of that public enlightenment program on tax administration and tax payment in Ogun State. It is called IRS Digest. I am Additional Anidube. I bring you good tidings again from the Ogun State Internal Revenue Service. That body saddled with the responsibility of actually engaging you with respect to tax payments in the Gateway State. The government appreciates all that you've done so far, but much more is still being required of each and every one of us to assist the government have access to the needed resources to develop Ogun State the more. Welcome on board to this edition of the program. We shall basically be focusing on how the Ogun State Internal Revenue Service is operating within the express zone of the state. That particular aspect of the state that requires deep attention as far as tax payment is concerned. We are going to be joined by the Zonal Controller, Express Zone of the Ogun State Internal Revenue Service, Mrs. Oluwaseun Olajube, who will be telling us more about the operations of that very critical zone as far as tax payment and administration is concerned, and all other things you may wish to know about that critical zone of the Ogun State Internal Revenue Service. Of course, you know that the Ogun State government appreciates all that you've done so far, but we still believe strongly you can do better for the government of Ogun State. The program returns very shortly. Please stay with us.
Electrification for all and sundry. All these and many more, like
Let's join hands in building a world of comfort in Ogun State. Pay your taxes and levies today. It pays to do so.
Titi, did you know your neighbor lost his case in court because his land documents were not accepted as evidence?
What happened?
The documents had no official stamp of government, and in reality, they were like ordinary pieces of paper, as no stamp duty was paid on them.
Stamp duty? What is stamp duty?
Stamp duty is the fee you pay to the government to obtain legal recognition for your land documents and other contract agreements.
Is that so?
Yes. Stamp duty gives legal recognition for your land documents and other contract agreements. It also assures continuous validity for those documents. You risk the payment of a fine, in addition to the payment of all unpaid duties if you default.
I am going straight to IRS Ogun State to access the stamp duty on my own document for payment.
Be wise. Ensure that necessary duties are paid on your land documents and other contract agreements. It is in your best interest.
Of course, it is in your best interest to do that which is wise as far as payment of taxes is concerned in the Ogun State. The program is IRS Digest, being put together by the Ogun State Internal Revenue Service on behalf of the government of Ogun State. The much you have done for the Senator Ibekunle Amosun-led administration is appreciated, and the government wants you to do much more so that together we can deliver the state of our dream. That gateway state that you and I dream of is what the government wants to deliver to each and every part of the state. And so your cooperation, your support in terms of tax payment is further required. We did tell you that we're going to be joined by the Zonal Controller, Express Zone of the Ogun State Internal Revenue Service, Mrs. Oluwaseun Olajube, who will be talking to us more about this critical aspect of the Ogun State Internal Revenue Service operations as far as payment of taxes is concerned. We have joining us now Mrs. Oluwaseun Olajube, Zonal Controller, Express Zone of Ogun IRS. Good afternoon, Seun.
Good afternoon,
It's nice to have you with us.
Nice being here. Compliments of the season.
I should wish you same. So basically, anyone who listens to us talk about the Express Zone, we want to ask, what is it about Express Zone of the Ogun State Internal Revenue Service? Ordinarily, we know of your area offices, we know of your corporate headquarters. What is it about the Express Zone that you are the zonal controller? Tell us about this.
Thank you very much. Viewer, as we all know, Ogun State Internal Revenue Service has 6 zones within the state. Express Zone is peculiar because of our nearness to Lagos. We know that we are the only neighbor Lagos State has. Ogun State is the only labor Lagos State has. The law says you pay your taxes wherever you work, wherever you live, not where you work. A lot of indigenes around the express, if I say express zone, we cover Ibafo, Owode, Isheri, Akute, and Ojodo Abiodun. In those areas, a lot of people live there, but they actually work in Lagos. Without the knowledge of the law, it is automatic that where they work, they deduct their taxes and they remit to the states where those taxes are being deducted. But that is not what the law says. The law says you pay your taxes where you live, not where you work. That is the peculiarity of that zone. We have people who live in Ogun State, but mostly work in Lagos. So our duty there is to ensure that what belongs to Ogun State government comes to Ogun State. That is the peculiarity of the express zone.
Now, given that situation, how successfully have you been able to manage and drive operations in that zone? Of course, you know that anyone who lives in that area will want to believe he lives in Lagos, not minding the fact that that territory still belongs to Ogun State. We have so many peculiarities in that zone. How successfully have you been able to manage such?
That is $1 million question. But the beauty of it is the state government is not leaving us alone to do it. That is why there is a borderline team being supervised by the Honorable Commissioner for Finance. This borderline team work hand in hand with the tax offices around that zone. And what is the essence? They go into Lagos, go to all these companies, check through them, who are your people who live in Ogun State? Mowe, you know Mowe is a fast developing area now. People living in Lagos now build their houses in Mowe, Akute, they move into Ogun State to live. So it's like, okay, all these people that are there that work in Lagos, for the pay as you earn scheme, that is what the borderline team is focusing on. But we equally have the direct assessment scheme. Let me paint a scenario now. I have this my beautiful mother living in Ebafo, but she sells her lace at Gota in Balogun. Ordinarily, because she is in Balogun, it is easy for Lagos State to assess her. It is easy for them to go to her in the shop, Mama, where is your paper, where is your tax payment, whatever, and she pays out of ignorance. But she is actually Ogun State taxpayer. That money belongs to Ogun State. So the onus is on us now to be able to identify these people. Like I said, my focus now is on the direct assessment, not people under the pay scheme who are already being handled anyway by the borderline team. Is to be able to identify who these people are. Office hours 8 to 5, they are not likely to be at home. You know the Lagos system. 5 o'clock, you are out of your house to be able to get to wherever you are going. Before they come back, it's 10 o'clock. This is Oluwaseun Olajube, the tax officer, who has money to collect from Mama Sheun, who sells clothes at Gota. So those are the things we do. But of course, enlightenment programs, this is one of them anyway. People are being aware more now of their need to pay taxes. We are not just sitting back waiting for them to come to us. We go to them too. If we get there, Yalasha is not around, once we get her address or wherever her location is, we do all we can to follow up and get to her. And of course, educate her on why she needs to visit the nearest tax office for her tax obligation. I hope you get the picture I'm painting. And of course, back to the payee scheme too. Like I told you, of the activities of the borderline team, going around to ensure that we capture those that are ours. We do a follow-up on whatever it is they do, so that we have access. It's about information. Once we have information on those people that reside in Ogun State, I'm sure capturing them is going to be better. We are not there yet. We are doing our best, but I believe with the cooperation of you, Avia, out there, we shall get there.
Now, we have information that your zone is currently undergoing a process, making requests on pay-as-you-earn returns and remittance schedule for 2012. You want to tell us more about this so that those who are watching can have a better understanding of this process?
Okay, thank you, Shino. It's actually not peculiar to my zone. It's a global thing. The section 81 and 82 of the law stipulates that at the end of every year, employers of labor are supposed to forward their returns, the annual tax returns of their employees, to the Ogun State Internal Revenue Service. The information expected to be on such returns is, of course, the name of the taxpayer, the address, the annual income, all the necessary deductions, and of the tax that had been deducted during the year, the preceding year. The law says by 31st of January, such information should get to the Internal Revenue Service. Of course, there is a penalty for not doing such, and that is 500,000. But we are not hawks waiting for them to fall prey so that we will just collect the penalty. That's not what we are after. We want them to comply, to voluntarily comply. So what we have done now is the chairman has honorably written letters to every corporate taxpayer in Ogun State, which we are circulating now.
Okay.
Reminding them of their need to ensure that the Form H1 gets to the Internal Revenue Service on or before the 31st of January. Like I said, we are not hawks just waiting for them to fall prey. If by 31st of January they don't comply, the law says no matter how little the tax payment would have been, or whatever it is your collection or remittance would have been, the law says if you don't make such a returns by 31st of January, you have to pay 500,000 as fine. It is good for me to sit back and wait and say, well, 500,000 times how many companies do I have in my jurisdiction? Yeah. That is cool money.
You will have been
but
missing
we
your
wouldn't
targets.
be serving the interest of the people that we are there to serve.
Okay.
That's why the chairman has taken it upon himself to write a letter of reminder to all corporate taxpayers in Ogun State, which we are circulating.
Do you have a specimen of the letter here so that those who are watching as corporate individuals can also have a feel of what we're talking about?
Oh, yes, please.
Okay.
There is actually one here. You want me to read?
Okay, just let's see, what is it about?
Okay, the heading says request for pay as you earn returns and remittance schedule for 2012. I will just pick some phrases. We seize this opportunity to inform you that as part of the requirement of pay as you earn tax agents, section 81 and 82 of Personal Income Tax Acts require every employer to file returns to the relevant tax authority of all emoluments paid not later than 31st of January. That is one. Then there's another portion of the letter that says, as specified in the attachment to this letter, which is the form. We actually attach the form so that it won't be like we don't know the information expected of us. There's a copy of.
Okay, this is the format that is expected.
That is expected to be followed in filing the returns.
Okay.
And of course, the chairman honorably reminded them in the letter that failing which a penalty of 500,000 shall be imposed for non-compliance as provided in section 81. Subsection 3 of the law.
Now, this is a reminder, I want to believe.
Yeah.
There had been previous efforts at actually getting them to do that which the law provides for. Now, in your own zone, what would you say has been the level of compliance as far as filing of this pay return is concerned? Yeah,
to a reasonable level, a lot of corporate bodies are complying, and even in the chairman's letter, he gave them the option of forwarding the electronic copy of the return. If you don't have time to, of course, it's expected that it will be on their system. So what he just said in the letter is that just mail it to Ogun State just mail it to h1@ogunstaterevenue.com. Once we have that, we'll access it and you are done. You are cleared. At least you are sure you are not owing Ogun State 500,000 as penalty.
Now, still talking about this letter, which is a reminder with respect to filing of pay returns, what will you say your own zone has done so far in encouraging many more who are yet to actually comply to do so, because 31st of January is close by?
Yes, thank you. Outside sending out these letters, we try to send SMS to as reminders, telling taxpayers we have forwarded the letter as expected to remind you, but well, this is still a daily reminder to let you know that we have not received it. We are still waiting. Like I said, it is not in our interest for them to fall prey, dragging them, bring 500,000 or whatever. So we are doing all we can to ensure that we sensitize them on a daily basis by sending them SMS to remind them of the need to forward this. There's been a reasonable level of compliance. That's much I can say.
Yeah, if you're just joining us, we have with us Mrs. Oluwaseun Olajube, who is the zonal controller of the express zone of the Ogun State Internal Revenue Service, and we are taking a look at the operations of this express zone with respect to tax payment, and more importantly, this current exercise being embarked upon, which is to further encourage taxpayers, corporate organizations within the axis of the state to file their tax returns, particularly the payee tax returns and remittance schedule as provided for by the laws. The deadline is 31st of January 2013, but the Ogun State Internal Revenue Service does not want you to fall prey of the law. Just ensure that you do that which the law provides for. Seun Olajube is still with us in the studio, but we'll take this break and we shall be bringing you a segment known as the feedback. Some of you actually inquired last week about the relaunched E-Class driver's license, which the Federal Road Safety Commission, in conjunction with the Joint Tax Board, which is made up of various Internal Revenue Service organizations in Nigeria, and of course the Vehicle Inspection Office, are facilitating. You want to know what the relaunched E-Class license driver's license is all about. We spoke to the head of license processing unit of the Federal Road Safety Commission in Ogun State here, Wumi Fashaki, in response to your question. Let's listen to Wumi. When we return, we continue with Mrs. Oluwaseun Olajube.
The process is still the same as we've been saying all over again. The issue now is there must be VIO testing before any applicant can obtain driver license. Then it's online. You apply online, then you go to the VIO for testing and certification. And at VIO, they will take you through the maybe oral interview. You are to be renewal, the identification of some road traffic signs and road traffic signs as such. Then when you are to be fresh applicant, you need to go for re-driving test. Then at that point they will issue you driving test certificate, which you will bring back to FRSC, to the FRSC for your form to be processed. They will now print out a form for you. Then after print out the form, you now go to the bank and pay the prescribed fee. But before you go to VIO for your driving test, you must go there with your driving school certificate. With the driving school certificate and the testing certificate issued by the VIO, we now print out a form for you, for the applicant. Then the applicant will now take the form back to VIO for endorsement. Then they will go to the bank and pay. After payment, they will come back to FRSC for data capture, capturing. That's all. No, it's the issue of, the road traffic crashes is on the high side, and we find out that the poor health condition of drivers are mostly responsible for this. Some of our drivers, we don't even know our health status. So, for example, the commercial driver license now that we are about to launch by next week, before you can obtain a commercial driver license now, you must go to the hospital for medical certification. There they will test you for vision, high blood pressure, diabetes, epilepsy, and any other ailments. So, and the age now is 26 years old, no longer 18. Although the Nigerian Constitution says 18, that you are an adult by 18. But because of the importance of these commercial drivers, before you can be issued a commercial driver license now, you must be 26 and above, because they convey more passengers. So emphasis are now on commercial drivers, because we want to reduce the road traffic crashes to minimum level in this country, and it has to start from the licensing of drivers. So the deadline, as I said, is 1st of October 2013.
The need for you to continuously be a partner in progress informed this program by the Ogun State government through the Ogun State Internal Revenue Service, and it is called RRS Digest. Today we are taking a look at the operations of the Express Zone of the Ogun State Internal Revenue Service, and we are being joined by the Zonal Controller Express Zone of that organization, Mrs. Oluwaseun Olajube. She had just spoken to us about filing of payee returns and remittance schedule, and I need to ask her now, we're talking about filing of returns. Can it even be established that these organizations have paid their taxes or have remitted taxes up to date as at December last year?
Thank you, Shino. My answer is yes and no.
How do you mean?
Yes, some taxpayers have actually remitted up to 31st of December 2012. But no, there are still some outstanding. But we are not folding our arms on those outstanding.
I was going to ask you, what are you doing to recoup what is seemingly lost?
As the reminder for the annual returns is going out, there is a reminder letter that is going out simultaneously to tax defaulters. Permit the use of word tax defaulter. Of course, once you have not remitted, you are still defaulting. There is a final reminder going out presently to all that are yet to remit as at 31st of December, reminding them of the need to comply, to pay the outstanding. Of course, it's to make life easy for everybody. It is to make life easy for our taxpayer out there, because if you don't remit as at the 10th of any succeeding month, your liability is supposed to attract interest and penalty, which Ogun State Internal Revenue Service is not ready to wait for anybody again. You are supposed to pay 10 naira. As at 10th of January, you are yet to pay the 10 naira for December. That 10 naira will not only attract interest, it will attract penalty, which is not too good for the taxpayer. And how sweet is it, or how sweet it is for a tax administrator to have a society where there is voluntary tax compliance. It makes my job easy. So to enable this, we are sending out reminders simultaneously with the letter reminding them to, we are sending reminders to tax defaulters out there to balance their payment, to settle their accounts for 2012. It is even only when that is done, you'll be able to file in your annual tax return.
Now, just as we have a deadline for the filing of annual tax returns, do we have a deadline even for this one that you are sending out pari passu?
Yeah, I just mentioned it. The deadline is even exceeded. As I speak, December tax deduction is already attracting interest and penalty.
As it is today.
As I speak. Because what the law says is 10th of any succeeding month. So whatever has not been remitted by 10th of January is already attracting interest and penalty. But that is not our interest, really. Of course, we don't have a choice now, we've got to do it. If that is what will ginger our taxpayers. What we are interested in is voluntary compliance. It's not too good when our taxpayers wait for the year to end for them to balance their accounts, or they wait and say, okay, at the end of every year they will send their tax audit team, let them come and audit us. No, our dream now is to have a community whereby at the end of every month people just voluntarily remit their money, as against waiting for it to start accumulating interest and penalty.
All right, Mrs. Oluwashinwola Jube, we've got to leave it at this point in time because time is fast spent. But I must assure you that another opportunity will present itself for you to be able to enlighten us the more about tax administration and payment as it relates to your zone, the express zone, which you are the zonal controller of. We want to thank you for your time with us on this program.
Thank you.
We wish you the very best and hope that when next we invite you, you oblige us.
Surely.
That's how it's going to be on today's edition of the program, RRS Digest. The Ogun State government says a big thank you to you for being a partner in progress, but much more can be done together for us to have the Ogun State of our dream. Pay your taxes and levies into the coffers of the Ogun State government, and you'll be glad you did. Thank you for watching. I am Adeshino Anidugwe.